Right now, US and NATO leaders are threatening nuclear war against Russia and against China. The bizarre foreign policy elites in Washington and London are prepared to use nuclear weapons at any time, soon, to stop a prosperous China and a revived Russia. Retired senior U.S. Ambassador Chaz Freeman has sharply exposed this madness. Speaking of China's possible response to U.S. moves to trigger a Taiwan split from China, he commented,
"It is in this case that the nuclear deterrent becomes invaluable, because China will be in a position to say to the United States, if you intervene, all options are on the table," to use the phrase that we have so often used with regard to others. In other words, are you really prepared to give up Chicago in order to preserve Taiwan's democracy and autonomy? Are you really prepared to make this trade-off?
The threats of war from Washington become more open by the day. Speaking about a coming nuclear war with Russia, Ranking Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi said on December 7th,
"Well, military action could mean that we stand off with our ships in the Black Sea and we rain destruction on Russian military capability." It could mean that. It could mean that we participate, and I would not rule that out. I would not rule out American troops on the ground. We don't rule out first-use nuclear action.
Admiral Charles Richard, head of the U.S. Strategic Command, wrote earlier this year,
"The U.S. military must shift its principal assumption from nuclear employment is not possible to nuclear employment is a very real possibility. A regional crisis with Russia or China could escalate quickly to a conflict involving nuclear weapons."
Former Pentagon official Colonel Richard H. Black denounced this madness on December 5th.
It's not clear if Western officials understand the gravity of what they are doing. It is unlikely that Russia can accept the stationing of nuclear weapons or even large-scale movements of NATO troops into Ukraine. If NATO were to make war against Russia, the chances of escalation into an all-out nuclear conflict would be high.
And president of the Schiller Institute, Helga Zepp-LaRouche, summarized today's strategic danger on December 8th.
I think my assessment is that we are still sitting on a powder keg of potential nuclear war, and naturally now the drumbeat that Ukraine and Georgia, but especially Ukraine, should also join NATO, and with many US troops being actually in Ukraine with US ships in the Black Sea, it is a state where Russia has said very clearly that this is a red line for them.
For the sake of your children and grandchildren, don't sleepwalk into World War III. Put your fears aside. Mobilize with the Schiller Institute. Your life and the lives of your loved ones depend on it.